Morning, everyone. Welcome to the Wealthy Retailer Podcast for the week of January 28th already, Rob. Holy cow.
1 month down.
Flying.
11 to go.
Yeah. 1 month ago, 11 more. 11 more crazy pandemic-driven months. Yeah. Man, do we ever have some good stuff today on the hit list? I was
a lot of cool stories.
Kind of floored last night and this morning as I was rolling through that stuff. It's awesome. Really good stuff. And so I'm just going to throw this out there right away, right off the hop. If you're not subscribed to the Wealthy Retailer or to the Canadian Retail Solutions weekly newsletter, this is a great week to subscribe. We're going to share every single link. There's a bunch of great tips in this week's newsletter. So please, please, please get on this thing and subscribe. It only takes a second to click the delete button if you don't want to read it, but there'll be some things that are important to read. Sorry, Rob, I hijacked.
Yeah, no, well said. Yeah, I'm excited about it too. You know, there's some weeks where I feel like, don't shoot the messenger. I'm just handing over. These are the headlines of the week.
Yeah.
This is what we have to work with. But a lot of encouraging stories this week, and at the top of the list, it's cash, right? And I know this is the fuel that just feeds everything that we need. And it's a story about 12 ways to increase your cash flow. And Dan, I know you got a lot of great insight there. So looking forward to that. A great Edmonton-based, success story we've seen grown from the first pair of boots, Poppy Barley. So really, really looking forward to that chat. They just launched a really interesting first on a line. So we'll get to there. A story about 5 Canadian businesses and how they pivoted to online platforms. So really great story. You know, they were forced to do so, but a bit of how they did it. Great note from Heartland talking about a bunch of experts' view on how retailers will thrive in 2021. And I like this because this really doesn't matter what your business is. This is a great exercise to go through, and that's about buyer personas and just what you can do there to really gear up your messaging to really hit those messages in the right places. Okay, Dan, right off the top, we got coming from smallbiztrends.com, story about 12 ways to increase your cash flow. I don't think we're going to hit on all 12 here, but as Dan said, we'll have a link to the story in the newsletter. Yeah. Dan, what jumps to mind when you see this story? Well,
Rob, I'm going to say absolutely the first line in this article, cash is the lifeblood of a business, and how Shelton, angel investor, score mentor, and author of the best-selling Secrets to Writing a Successful Business Plan, has sort of shared these 12 tips. Now, I don't necessarily agree with all of them. Some of them are, rear view mirror looking sort of perspective, and others I think we can, as great retail coaches and retailers, can take more out of this list. And this is, I'm going to give you, I think there's 5 or 6 that really jumped out at me. Okay. And I'm going to spin it in sort of my way. Their number one tip was to monitor and document the process using bookkeeping software. How do we create cash? Not by looking in the rearview mirror. So absolutely, right out of the box, I disagree with number 1. I don't disagree that you need to have up-to-date bookkeeping. Critical, up-to-date bookkeeping. In measuring the process or the cash, it's about you creating a cash flow forecast. A forecast looks forward, and it should be a dynamic 12-week forecast. If I remember correctly, Rob, this is one of the 20 for 21 on our hit list for Survive and Thrive.
Totally.
Cash flow planning is hypercritical in our retail business. It takes into account where you are and where you will be along your journey. This is not done once a year or twice a year. It's a weekly dynamic cash flow process. And that is how we one of the steps to improving cash. Number 2 on their list was cut costs. I've said this before, I'm going to say it again. No business has ever been saved by cutting costs, by cutting expenses. Cutting expenses in retail often has the same effect as overbuying. I run out of cash. We need to benchmark our expenses, ensure that they're aligned. There is no replacement, Rob, for being a poor operator. We need to be good operators. We need to be lean, but most importantly, we need to know where our expenses should be. Also on our top 20 for 21, another little plug there. Number 4 on their list was negotiate or incent better payment terms. Couldn't agree with this more. Absolutely be negotiating with your vendors today, taking early payment discounts, and not taking, demanding, negotiating early payment discounts. If you're going to pay an invoice in less than 30 days, get 3 to 5% off the bottom line. That 3 to 5% falls to your bottom line. Number 5, apply for a line of credit. Most of us make the mistake of going looking for financial support when we need it.
After the fact, right?
Yeah. And going to look for a line of credit, a revolving line of credit, is an action that we need to take. Every single retailer should have an operating line of credit. Every business needs that operating line. And when we're looking at that cash flow projection, Rob, we know where the valleys are. We know where we're going to need a little bit of cash support. Yep. And having that line of credit to fall back on, not live on, but to fall back on, is imperative in today's world. Number 6 on their list was to consolidate or renegotiate debt. And yeah, no truer words have ever been spoken. I mean, consolidate your debt. Let's take all of your debt today, get with your BA team, your business advisory team, your bank manager, your credit facility manager, and let's look at how do we consolidate, create a long-term payback strategy that keeps cash in the business today. Too many credit cards, too many loans, just deplete your cash, and it doesn't need to. You can consolidate, and banks are open to this today. They're open to seeing debt consolidation. They're there to help and support us. Number 9 on their list, get rid of excess inventory. No shit, Dick Tracy. Thanks for the heads up on that. Retailers, you need to look at every single piece of inventory in your store like it's a $20 bill. And your job is to get that $20 bill in the bank. And I say this, over and over again to every single retailer. It's a $20 bill. Get it in the bank. I don't care if it's a $600 jacket or a $200 shirt, a $10 t-shirt. Every single item in your store represents cash. And your job is to convert that inventory back to cash. And in January, it should be done without care or concern. January and February, care or concern to what you paid for it. This is about converting merchandise back to cash. Too many of us, because of some of our restrictions or challenges out there, are walking into the spring season with fall-winter merchandise, and your job is to get it gone. That will create cash. And then, of course, number 11 for them was check your pricing structure. We say this over and over again, inch your prices up. What's it going to hurt to add $1 to every item in your store, $2, $3? It's the difference between putting my kid in college next year or going on vacation or having profitability, putting profit first. Let's throw some profit on top of every price. Make sure your prices are accurate. I can use an example. Twig and Berries. So they've got a really successful selling product. And I said to Candace, let's bump the price by $2 and see what happens. Let's see what happens. There's tons of demand out there. Increase the price and see if it slows the sales down. Well, sales have continued to increase, and they're making $2 more on that product. It was $2, Rob.
And didn't skip a beat with it, right?
Didn't skip a beat. It's a medium-sized coffee. It's $2. Nobody even flinched at the price, and the product continues to sell, throwing $2 more every time to the bottom line. And then lastly, I'm going to say, I saved this right to the end. It's not on their list. If you don't recognize in retail that inventory is the success formula to cash flow, we need to talk. Inventory is cash flow. Carrying the right amount of inventory in the right category at the right time is how we generate cash. And we need to be able to look at your inventory and feed money, invest in better turning categories and divest of the poorer turning categories. Get that inventory out of the way. Allow it to generate cash, Rob, to feed the better performing categories.
Nice.
So that article, I forget who it was all of a sudden now. Small Biz Trends, maybe. great little, hey, how do we create some cash? It's worth the read of the article. And then send me an email, dan@thewealthyretailer.com, on any questions you have about creating cash.
And go into your store today, folks, and find something that you're going to increase by $2.
$2.
Get out there, make it happen. Let's see what happens.
Not one thing, 10 things, 20 things,
10 things. Yeah. Dan's Toonie plan for the day. Okay.
Coffee. It's my coffee plan.
There we go. Our next story comes from retailinsider.com. It's a briefs, but one that we love. Like I said, a bit of a local darling. Couple sisters here in the Edmonton region launched Poppy Barley. They just recently launched a new line. Dan, tell us a bit about it.
Listen, this article really threw us for a bit of a loop because Barney's is not coming to town. Well, you and me and nobody else gives a shit about Barney's coming to town. What we do give a shit about is a great story like this. These two gals with stores in Edmonton and Calgary, have really, I'm going to say, from an outsider, this is about gap analysis and the great work that Poppy Barley has done in bringing something new to the market. They've created what I'm going to call cactus leather. That's really not the way to define it, but it is built from cactus leaves. They've built new products, a new accessory line using this leather. And this is retailers. This is about looking at the marketplace and identifying opportunities and saying to yourself, why not? Not why should I do it? Why wouldn't I try this? All these fear-driven reactions. I don't have the money. I don't know if anybody wants that, blah, 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 bullshit. When you see an opportunity, when you can create opportunity, you then capture market share. And that's exactly what these two ladies have done. And I loved this story. It's worth the read. Ignore the Barney's bullshit. We don't ever care if Barney's comes to town. Barney's landed where they needed to land. This is about great local retail excelling.
Yeah. Well, and it hits a couple points that you've talked about lots in the past about, your own branded line. You're trying, I can't remember the number, Dan, if it was 10, 20% of, trying new categories or new lines within the store, like a bit of that testing, just to see what happens. They're not betting the entire business on
they're not
cactus leather, but so when someone says ouch, now we can say, are you wearing cactus leather?
Yeah. And we're not going to go back to the crappy pull-up leathers and vinyls that we see come from other places in the world. This is a bit of a bit more down that vegan or organic road. And again, Rob, this is a class or category that supports their business model.
Right.
It is complementary. And that's what retailers need to be focused on. What's complementary to my business that is missing in the marketplace, or that I can do better than what's out there? It's not a new mousetrap. Maybe it's a better mousetrap, right? Yep. You don't have to be, iteration is just as important as innovation. Make it better.
Yep.
And this, I love this story. Poppy Barley, 2 thumbs up, ladies. Great job.
Yeah, and for those who don't know them, like they started as an e-commerce company, and now they a couple substantial brick and mortar operations that they have. So they kind of went the other way.
If you're not familiar with Poppy Barley, they're in Southgate Mall here in Edmonton, and in I believe it's the CF Market Mall in
Calgary. Yeah. Right on. Okay. Folks, reminder that this podcast is brought to you by Canadian Retail Solutions. And, think of this. You want to do an e-commerce store, a pop-up, single boutique, multiple location. Give them a shout. Let them help you find the cutting-edge retail solution today. Visit retailbycrs.com. The latest point-of-sale software, merchandise intelligence with open-to-buy plans, and more. They are here to help. Okay, well, geez, we were talking about Poppy Barley and how they pivoted from online to, well, I wouldn't say they pivoted, they just grew as part of their business. This next story comes to us from globalnews.ca, talking about 5 Canadian businesses and how they pivoted to online platforms. So what jumped out to you from this story, Dan?
Well, I think this was probably Global National, which kind of lives in Ontario, that is the center of the world, Rob. Ontario, Canada, center of Canada.
That's what my sister tells me there.
And and according to Stats Canada, here I am. I love to beat up on stats. According to Stats Canada, February 2020 through May 2020, through May 2020, total retail sales fell by only 17.9%. Not 17.9%, and online purchases surged by 99%. I call bullshit. And every single retailer that's listening to this podcast is probably calling bullshit that sales only fell by 18% February through May 2020. But, that doesn't change the fact that, brick and mortar stores have been forced to adapt and shift, in the consumer habits, as consumer habits are starting to shift. They become more digital savvy. And, one of the companies that I have admired, I'm going to say at afar, we certainly have lots of clients that have engaged Go Digital Canada. This was an initiative to help small businesses sort of transition to online or evolve their online marketplace. Lots of great grants out there. I think, a small retailer would get $2,500 to help revamp their website to become more digital. And so we really looked inside this article. Again, great article, worth the read. And I just pulled out 5 things that each of these retailers did to help make it through 2020 and have now positioned themselves to not just survive, but thrive here this year. The first one was, of course, you got to get online. You got to get online. You got to be online. And I always add to being online, you have to be integrated with your point of sale system. Not the most painless thing in the world, but it's critical that your information transfers to and from e-com into your point of sale system so that we can properly measure it. The second store, her tip, and that first one, Get on the Line, was Kayla and Lime, another one of our favorite retailers down in Calgary, and really did a great job in evolving, adapting, or switching over to an online presence that's really set her up for success going forward. The second one was reach out for help. Holy cow. No truer words, I guess. I said that already in this podcast. Maybe I won't say it again, but
no
this is pretty freaking accurate, Rob.
More than the last time I said no truer words.
Yeah, no, more truer.
Yeah.
But this is the reality. We're retailers and we're wearing 1,000 hats. We're trying to do 1,000 things. It's 11 o'clock at night and we're adding freaking items to our online store. And, we're doing too much. And one of those mistakes that we make is not letting go of the vine and asking ourselves, is there someone that could do this better than I can? Is there a more efficient way to do it? I don't have 2 nickels to rub together. Okay, well, either do I, but let's get on a call and let's figure it out. You have this enormous circle of resource, not influence, but resource. There are a ton of people that are open to have a conversation, and you aligning yourself in every one of these silos that you work on every day with someone that can do it better, faster, get better results, maybe makes it worth that, $25, $2,500 investment, whatever it is. You just have to ask for help. Get out there and look for it. The third store talked about collaboration, Rob, and we've talked about this a lot.
Yeah,
totally. You want to be successful, let's start collaborating. Collaboration over competition. Let's not look at how to take market share from my neighbor, but grow together. I read a really, really good article yesterday about a corn farmer and how that corn farmer was going around and sharing his corn seed with all of his neighbors. And when asked why, he said, well, the pollen, moves through the air. So if my neighbors have bad corn, I'm going to end up with bad corn.
Interesting.
But if my neighbors have good corn, I'm going to have good corn. And good corn, prices will rise, man. If instead of beating each other up, let's figure out how to support our neighbors and get better goddamn corn. I mean, come on.
Who said your subscription to Cow and Horse Quarterly wouldn't pay off, huh? Awesome story. I love that.
Who said working with Saskatchewan businesses was wrong? Come on. All right. So number 4, this fourth store just really spoke about how important it was to be ready to adapt, right? Ready to pivot, ready to dip, dive, dodge, and duck, Rob. We talk about this all the time. You know, you want to thrive. You've got to be ready to shift. You've got to be ready to move around. And being ready means that you run a lean operation that is adaptable, that's modifiable, that I can bring this class in and let this one go. I can bring this person in. I can move from doing this to doing this. You know, I can be adaptable. And it's not about wanting to adapt. It's about being prepared to adapt.
Okay. Yep.
The fifth store shared this tip was, you know, listen, guys, you got to find creative ways to connect with your audience. You know, they spoke in a marketing theme, and I'm going to tell you that this is real life. You got to find creative ways to connect. How many of us, you know, have shared coffee or beer or wine, you know, with friends and family over Zoom? You know, that's about our ability to get creative. And how do I connect? You know, it's not the same as, you know, driving over to grandma's house and having a visit. You know, I got to teach her how to use, you know, an iPhone or a laptop. You know, it's about us finding good creative ways to connect to our audience. And a little later on, we're going to talk about buyer personas which allows us to better connect, you know, with our audience. And our audience has to be our customer base, our guests, our clients, our family.
Yeah. I love these stories when you know, at the very beginning, you talk about that this was for many an exercise of surviving, but quickly we'll pivot to thriving. And if you think for a moment, how much of pre-existing business was within their geographic footprint, and now they have literally opened themselves up, these opportunities, their abundance. So very cool.
And I promise you, customers are looking to buy things from, you know, local. They're when they search online, they want to know where it is, and you've got to make sure that you show up in those local searches that your customers out there doing right now. They don't know sometimes what you have, and it's important to get that message out.
I did it a couple times around the holiday season where, you know, buying for some family members in other provinces, I, you know, took a bit of that reverse local approach where I went into Google Maps and I looked into their neighborhood and found what I felt was that small boutique retail store. And damn, it felt good. And even though it wasn't my shop local, it was another version of it. And loved doing it. So,
hey, listen, man, my mom, you know, my 70-something-year-old mom figured out how to shop local, how to support local at Christmas this year. Now they're in Southwestern Ontario, and they figured out how to buy from a local retailer, you know, here in St. Albert, to deliver us a Christmas package for the family.
Cool.
And if my 70-year-old mom can figure it out, everybody can figure this out. I mean, this is not, my mom is certainly tech savvy, but, you know, she recognized the power of supporting a local community, you know, here where I live. And you got to love that. And that was her getting on there and searching, you know, where do I find in St. Albert, Alberta?
Nice. All right. Okay, our next story.
Just so you know, that's my mom probably listening to the podcast. That's our normal one listener.
Well, my mom's listening too, so I guess that's right. we got two listeners. Yeah,
I force the kids to listen, but I try, but they don't. I've been there, done that, Dad. I'm good, thanks.
Congratulatory email each week. Oh, so well done, great job, son. Well, there was a story. I caught the headline this week about I think the age 50 plus on e-commerce. That age 50 plus category was a massive growth because, you know, they were forced to learn, but then quickly, well, this is no big deal.
It's pretty easy.
In their mind, it was this, you want my credit card? No damn way you're getting my credit card.
What's this PayPal thing? How do I do it?
100%. So right on. Okay,
can I send you a check?
No. Next story from heartlandpaymentsystems.com. Great story, how retailers will thrive in 2021. They talked to 11 different experts in different fields. And they all shared a few points, some bullet items here. Dan, which ones jumped out at you?
Well, so I want to make sure we're all crystal clear. This article was posted on Heartland Payment Systems, but this really is about the Heartland Retail team. Okay. And Heartland Retail is the American representation of global point of sale here in Canada. So Heartland is owned by Global Payments, international company. Okay. And this product that was Springboard, which in the US is now Heartland Retail, and in Canada is now Global Retail, one of our point of sale partners. So of course, I read everything that our partners share and send and pull out the good, bad, and ugly and talk about it. And sure enough, I start reading this article, and here's our colleagues, here's our friends at Management One, our partners at Management One, Josh Orr, really, really on the ball, brick and mortar to e-com leader. Retail Josh is his handle on Instagram. Go check him out. So the first thing, there was a bunch of tips, but I just pulled out, from some of my favorite people or some of our partners. Nico Cabral, Management One. He's the director of marketing at Management One. And he jumped on this Phygital bandwagon. I think we had it in one of our retail revelations or in a podcast a little while ago.
You just can't ignore a great name like that.
Can't ignore the name Phygital, Phygital, and it really talked about, Nico sort of shared this, retailers need to leverage their newfound savvy in the digital world and begin to blend it into their physical environment, marrying these two channels, and thinking about your brick and mortar store and your e-com store as two separate selling channels that need to deliver a synonymous experience. And, that really blended well to the next one. I spoke about Josh Orr. Josh has got a great podcast. I believe it's called Retail Initiative. But you can chase Josh at Retail Josh. Really knows his stuff when it comes to marrying your digital space with your brick and mortar or vice versa. And he goes on to say retailers no longer have a storefront that has a website, but they have a brand that has an in-store experience, an online experience, a social media experience, and more. Those that have a great experience everywhere will grow in 2021. And those that only lean on their storefront will continue to struggle. Good on you, Josh. Yeah. The third one I pulled out was from Paul Erickson. Paul Erickson is the director of sales of Management One. Super intelligent, highly engaging speaker, well sought after. He speaks at every trade show on the continent. Really great. And Paul understands, retail better than most. So Paul shares this: customers need a new product selection that is more digestible. So retailers need to edit down, their buy. They've got to edit down their selections. And when ordering products for spring, summer, fall, winter, whatever it is, you got to think about how you can start trimming styles and colors to avoid customer decision paralysis. Holy cow. Customer decision paralysis. I think we've talked about that before, and that paralysis derails their buying process. The benefits here are going to be a reduction in your end of season markdowns. And most importantly, you're going to increase your inventory turn on your profitable sale. And, if you're not following Management One, they share a ton of really great education, free education. If you're fortunate enough to be, in the Management One family, whether via CRS or any one of the, 50 or 60 really strong affiliates that are out there, you're getting this information. And it's critical. You need to have it. The fourth one that I pulled out is probably from one of my favorite humans in the retail world, Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub. Yep. Love this girl to death. Love all of the information that they share. Love what they do for retail. And her tip here was, knowing how to get your customers' attention with the tools social media gives us in a crowded space. This could be video notifications, TikTok recommendations, mobile app notifications, SMS marketing, or Facebook Messenger. This is about you understanding how to push information out to your retailer. And, Rob, we've seen our retailers are using it. We've seen, Yo Mama jumping on the reels, Michelle really hammering away on the lives, does a really good job. And every one of these retailers, Janelle at High Fashion, an online only business, Janelle's happy hour, every one of these retailers is figuring out, how do I push information, relevant, good, clean information out to my retailers? And so, what I really liked about this list that Heartland assembled, they went to really intelligent people in the retail space, and every one of them has their perspective on, the 20 things you need to do in 2021 to survive and thrive. And it's great to get different perspectives. It's funny how, not funny, how synonymous, it's interesting how synonymous, a lot of us feel in this, but when you enter in some stark new information, how it can sort of throw you back and make you realign, rethink what your strategy should be. So, this is what I talk about when I say, follow relevant news, shut the damn TV off, stop listening to the radio, get on and read stuff that's relevant to your business. Yep. Every one of the people in this article has relevance. I mean, there was big commerce, there was blacks, there was a ton of different people in this, in this article. The founder of Ready, Set, Sell, Alex Nielsen, general manager from Omnichannel Partnerships at Big Commerce, Sarah Burks from the Boutique Hub as well. I mean, a ton of good stuff. We're going to make sure that this link is in our newsletter this week.
Totally.
And worth the read. And if you have questions, whatever, just hit us up or hit one of them up. They're all in this for the right reason.
Right on. Yeah, that was great. Thanks for sharing that. We talked a bit about, buyer personas, and that takes us to our last story. It comes from socialmediatoday.com. Knowing your customers, understanding their motivation, their interests. It's in some ways it's easier said than done, as the article says, but definitely worth its weight in gold. What are your thoughts here, Dan?
And this sort of is going to pick up from what Ashley Alderson from the Boutique Hub was talking about, knowing how to get to your customers. Yeah, you've got to know how to get to them, but most importantly, you've got to know who they are, and knowing your customer and understanding their motivations, their interests is the key to gaining this true competitive edge in any market. And creating buyer personas not only allows you to better market, to your customers, but it enables you to be a better buyer. Remember what your real job is as a buyer. An apparel buyer, your job is to fill her closet, right? If you're a home decor buyer, your job is to fill her home with things that explode her personality in her home, that really highlight her personality. And so we need to know the geographics. Where is your customer? The demographic is the socioeconomic information like, employment, education, income, that kind of thing. And then most importantly is the psychographics of your customer. Psychographics, personality, values, opinions, attitudes, interests, lifestyles. All of this allows us to create our target customer. And this information is readily available, whether it's in your POS system, it's in your engagement with your audience. And I've said this to retailers for a long time. Take a step back in your store and watch the people that walk through your door. Watch the people that leave with a bag. I promise you, 6 out of 10 of them fit in the same little persona. Box, the same buyer persona. They're the same kind of person. They have like interests. They have like demographics, income, education. They're the like geographic. They live 5, 10, 15, 30 minutes from your store. And people don't get this. And most of us make this mistake of, having this marketing, diarrhea that just, we spray it over everyone.
Gotta be, totally.
And we don't get to our target audience, Rob. And here I am, preaching to the choir. You've got to create that audience that you can then go and talk to. Yep. And that audience comes from you analyzing who's walking in and out of your store every single day.
Well, and this article mentions too, and I like it, the negative personas too, like getting an understanding of who who you're not worried
Who you're
about
not
connecting with.
Right.
And probably serves as a good guide when, you're always testing ideas and that network around you and quickly saying, man, the person I'm asking, are they in my buyer persona or are they in my negative persona? And realizing that the feedback you're going to get, you gotta be mindful of it. Right.
Yeah.
So,
and when you're building your vision, when you're reviewing your vision every year, Gino Wickman with the Entrepreneurial Operating System is going to say defining your target market is by defining these three things, the geo, demo, and psychographic of your customer. And so then when someone doesn't fit that, you stop doing somersaults. They're not your target audience. When someone has something, negative to say about your store or your business, it quite likely is someone that's outside your customer, your buyer persona. It's outside your customer persona. And you need to ignore that stuff.
I can attest to, Dan, in my business, I suffer from and get caught in everyoneism.
Yeah.
Lots of times where you just, whether it's a human nature thing of I should be able to do business with, I can do business with them, and why can't I? And you kind of, but you pause for a moment, take that step back and say, I don't have to do business with everyone.
Right.
It's not my perfect fit. They're not my client. And there's more than enough out there to thrive and survive.
Rob, say it again. There's more than enough out there to thrive.
Yeah.
Man. Here we are. We're in a town of 60,000 people, 4 or 5, stores, and that 60,000 could be multiplied by 10 as our captured audience, and we're seeing 40 and 50 customers a week. I mean, come on.
Yep. There's
more than enough customers out there if you have the ability to create that target audience and to stay focused. Is this our core focus? Let's not chase squirrels or nuts around. Let's not be jumping all over the place. Let's make sure that we know what our core focus is. And if you know what your core focus is, if you know what your deliverable is, the audience comes to you. You don't necessarily go to them.
I love that.
Really good at your core focus, when you're streamlined, laser focused on what your deliverable is, the audience is there waiting for you.
Boy, Dan, some great stuff on the podcast this week. Few stories that didn't make the cut, but we're going to have the links to those stories in the newsletter, and you'll want to check that out. Story about the evolution of the shopping mall, what consumers want. Story about co-op, the co-op model, helping local businesses compete. Some of the big boys like Uber and Amazon. That one was interesting. News out of Ottawa. Dan talked a bit about the stats coming out. It talks about, of course, you see the growth for the 7th straight month into November. So you see the stats there, and a great little story about 2 entrepreneurs who, in the fashion world, they really see this opportunity for Canada to become the fashion powerhouse and reclaim Canada in international influences. So. Yeah. I know that's not going to be me, Dan. So check out these young ladies who are doing. So good stuff.
Everyone, thank you so much for joining the Wealthy Retailer podcast. As we've said a few times today, if you're not subscribed to our newsletter, head over to retailbycrs.com. Subscribe to that newsletter. We share, of course, the podcast, but all the news articles that we talk about every week and more. There's lots of good information in there, whether it's about point of sale or cash flow or, connecting your POS, whatever it is. There's lots of information there and a gateway to the people that are standing here, hand up, not out. Have a great weekend.
Have a great week.